When we were building mud houses, wooden houses, we were a community that would help each other build. But when modernity came and development started, I think we see in the last 20 or 30 years, the boom with modernity has come that has brought in sort of new techniques, new ways of looking at development, and somehow the people, the community for whom these towns are home have been sort of in a way left out, of the equation of being engaged and participating, right, in creating these towns. Basically, we're wondering how engaged are our people. I mean, I was talking to one of our trainees here in Thimphu also. When I asked, I said, how many people come? Do you engage with anyone? And then she said, even during the elections, if you're lucky, maybe 50, 60 people will come for the elections. Somehow, I think over the years, from the World Bank, ADB, our own government has noted that there is a fundamental flaw in engagement because Thimphu has only like 6,000 odd voters, I'm sure? 10,000 now, in a city of 120 odd thousand people, right? So when people don't even have a say in that way, it's very hard for them. I think many people have written about it in the past, and yet somehow this has not changed us. So that's one hurdle. The other one is also, this mentality that we have over the years with development. Now people tend to sit back and wait for the government to drive. Like the government will plan, they will implement, they'll provide for, and therefore there is a gap. And that's why in the 21st century we see many towns where we have to still deal with very basic issues like garbage, littering, where people don't feel a sense of that connection. And I quote a Zongda, whom we work with, who says that when he himself doesn't turn up at cleaning campaigns on weekends, nobody cleans. So it feels like we do need that kind of, we have a lack of participation with people. And this is where I think BCMD has tried to pilot some building community projects in Paro and Samrup Jongka, where town committees are created. And this would include not just people in government, but the town committees would include representatives from CSOs, youth and schools, the police, members of health, citizens and residents, retirees included, artists, in many of these places. We bring them all together to envision that vision for their own town. And then this is continuing, but we have done enough to have a very good model that I'm sure BCMD will continue to share with others. But basically, before I wrap, the problem is sometimes when we forget the community, our towns become very packed. It's all infrastructure. So what's a typical town like? Cement apartments, right? The ground floor is always some grocery and bar, right? We have very few public facilities. When Changjiji project was built, Megraj, I think you were the one I interviewed you many years ago, when you said when the budget ran short, what went? The apartments were built, 70 buildings for 3,500 people from across Bhutan. But when there was no money, footpaths went, the greening areas went, the parks went. So as a result of that, in the initial years of Changjiji, we had a lot of issues and problems. There was some crime, there were gangs, and then CSOs, the government, all had to come in to start a little library, a community center, etc. And things have really improved since. So that in itself is a very good example of how we have forgotten to engage people, to tell people to look out for themselves. And the last point is, our police over the last few decades have tried very hard to create neighborhood watches. But they find that most of our people feel that that's the job of the police. Why should I help you? So nobody watches out for each other. And I feel we are all migrants. We've all come from many places. And we live in a town where sometimes now we don't know our neighbor. We don't know who's upstairs, who's next door. So we don't feel very connected. So these are some of our problems. And as a result of a lack of public facilities, we have what? Towns that tend to grow like some other cities elsewhere. I call it the Bangkok syndrome, where we have only focus on nightlife. We have 700 bars, 38 karaokes, 13 dryans, we have dance clubs. Fine, we need that, but we do not have enough public facilities. Futsal is now privatized. We have a few government, but inadequate. We don't have enough courts, basketball courts. And that is why perhaps we lack this healthy, alternative in towns. And that is why maybe, as Megraj indicated, some of us tend to look at towns as like not very healthy places, where everybody is like giving way to alcoholism, etc. So these are the structural issues, and we have to look beyond infrastructure into the community and the people. Thank you.